What's going on, everybody? This is Black Men Sundays. I'm your host, Corie Murray, and we're talking about generational wealth. We're talking about finance, and we're talking about business. And I have a special guest for you guys today.
It's a Black Man Sunday. Time to put all childish things away. I refuse to be the man I was yesterday. Gotta put my best foot forward and elevate.
And before we introduce today's guest, my man Eric from Huntsville, Alabama, who do you have for our Black Men Sunday Spotlight?
Yeah, thanks, Corie. Today's spotlight is going to focus on Clara Brown. Now, Clara Brown was a former enslaved woman from Virginia and Kentucky who received her freedom at age 56. She became a community leader, a philanthropist, and aided in the settlement of former slaves during the time of Colorado's gold rush. She's also known as the Angel of the Rockies and made her mark as Colorado's first Black settler and a prosperous entrepreneur as a laundry and housing service owner by helping other former slaves and others from poverty. She was inducted into the Colorado Business Hall of Fame in January of 2022, and she also has a statue in her honor at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And again, this is Clara Brown, my spotlight for today. And Corie, back to you.
All right, thank you, Eric, for that Black Men Sunday Spotlight. Now let's go on to introduce today's guest. Before we introduce today's guest, we have to understand the terminology first. We have to understand what blurred means. We're going to understand what the word superfly nerd means. Just like me, this brother has a Bachelor of Science degree from FAMU in communications. I'm assuming it's in public relations because you're a public relations strategist. You know, I was on the broadcast journalism side. I was in Tucker Hall. I didn't get to see the new building and all that. This brother has a master's degree in communications from UCF. Like I already said, this brother's a public relations professional. This brother was in the Orlando Business Journal's 40 under 40. This brother was getting it. This brother is a comic book creator. I mean, I can't think of everything, but this brother is an actor. He's a writer. He's a cartoonist. I've seen this brother online. I'm like, wow, this brother at FAMU speaking on a board. So this brother's a big deal. So without further ado, Jalen Christie, welcome to Black Men Sundays, brother. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely. So let's go on and get started. Like I said, you're a public relations professional. So, you know, we're talking to brothers and we listen to brothers that are business owners, brothers that have turkey drives that, you know, say, listen, I have this great idea and I have money and I have this establishment where I can present it, but I don't know how to do a report for the media. You know, I don't know how to do a media release. I don't know how to do those things. So from your point of view as a professional in that, for brothers that have no media professionalism at all, but they're professionals in what they do, but they're saying, listen, how can I get the news? How can I get a magazine out to promote my business? So if you can just give us some PR press release tips for us.
Sure. So it's really not that hard. You know, sometimes when it comes to business owners and entrepreneurs, you know, they already have the ingredients. They already have the formula for success. They just don't know where to start. So as a public relations practitioner, that's where people like me come in. So I think the first thing is knowing your story. All right. There's a lot of talk now around storytelling. I remember back in 2020, 2019, storytelling was a buzzword, but it is in fact something that should be valued and held in high regard. All right. So knowing what differentiates your company or your organization from your competitors. All right. And then determining how that story resonates with your target audience. Do you even know who your target audience is? I cannot tell you how many entrepreneurs and business owners have come up to me and have said, Jaylen, can you please get us on the cover of Forbes magazine? Or can you please land us an interview with Entrepreneur for that matter? All right. But is your target audience reading Forbes? Is your target audience reading Entrepreneur? What is your goal? All right. Is it to gain clout? Is it to be seen as a thought leader or a subject matter expert? Or is it to simply raise revenue? I would think that if you're a local business owner, or if your organization or your company is, you know, in Central Florida, your target audience, if you're helping Central Floridians, would be in Central Florida. Therefore, the publications that we would have to go after would be local publications or media outlets that are either viewed or read or listened to by that particular audience. So that's where a PR strategist comes in, helping you to effectively determine your target audience, helping you to refine your messages, and then making sure that it gets out to the individuals that matter, which will ultimately lead to increased sales for your business.
Perfect. And for the brothers that say, okay, I have a target audience, and just FYI, I know we're on Click Orlando, but we worldwide, man. It's Black Men Sundays. We're not just on them. So just FYI, just so you know, that's brothers in Ghana listening right now. But
Absolutely.
definitely. So my next question, we're gonna stay on the PR side. We're gonna get to the comic because everyone's like, come on, what's up with the comic book? Why are you playing?
Listen,
I gotta take care of the business first. So let's get it.
it's not a problem. I don't mind talking about whatever you throw at me. We're
Oh,
good.
let's go. I love it because I'm the Allen Iverson. I might not even pass the mic tonight. So you know what I mean? But so my next question is staying along the PR, the press release guidelines for the brothers that say, okay, listen, I have all the news media's email addresses.
Yep.
I know the who, what, when, where, why, the very basic press
Yep.
release format, but what should be included in addition to the who, what, when, where, why? Like, should it be on a letterhead? Like, what advice would you give brothers that's never done this before, that they're saying, listen, I'm about to have a shoe drive, I'm about to have a turkey drive this year, but
Yeah.
I want to be able to not just send it to the media, but I
Yeah.
want to make sure that they're actually going to take it serious and that my release looks professional.
Absolutely. So I will say this, all right? So the game has changed, all right? It's 2023. So when I started out in public relations, my first PR job was over 10 years ago. And press releases were something that many reporters, held dear. Now in 2023, I kind of feel as though some reporters and a significant amount of producers are, moving away from press releases and they're preferring pitches. And what I mean by that is, so, back in the day, you had your press release, which is, yes, like you said, it could very well be on letterhead pertaining to your business. And it features a quote from the CEO or the president, along with the basics, who, what, when, where, and how. And you're convincing the reporter to care and why they should take it seriously and why they should share with the public. But what we've seen now, as you fast forward 2023, attention spans have gotten increasingly shorter. So some reporters like you to get straight to the point. For example, back in the day, you could put that press release on letterhead and then email it out to reporters and producers and members of the media. But as I matriculated through my public relations career, it got to a point where instead of attaching the press release, you would just copy and paste the press release into the body of the email, because statistically speaking, reporters didn't want to click on an attachment anymore. Now what we're seeing is, with the pitch, you get straight to the point. So it is an introduction to who you are. That should be your first sentence. And then that second sentence is straight to the point. What it is that your organization is doing, what it is that you're doing, why it matters, how it resonates with the community, and why people should care. And that's helped my clients out tremendously as we move forward. I still occasionally write press releases, and I think that if someone wants to do a press release, then by all means do so. But I think what's more important is knowing the right reporter and the right producer to send that press release or that pitch to, because there are a lot of people that put together a great press release or a stellar pitch, and then they may send it to the wrong reporter. And what I mean by that is, if your business specializes in health, for example, you should not be emailing the business reporter. You should be looking for the health reporter. Or if you are putting on a concert, all right, or your organization is doing a food drive of sorts, all right, you should be looking for the reporter that specifically covers nonprofits, or the lifestyle reporter. And sometimes what we've seen is some people don't take that extra step in doing the research. They'll just send it to any reporter that they come across, or they may send it to the general assignment desk, which is absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine, but do your homework and do your research. So having that press release, having that pitch is great, but going a step further and finding the right reporter, the right producer, the person that will care, the person that press release and pitch will resonate with, goes miles and miles to help you, for sure.
I'm loving that free game you're giving. As someone that works with the media, a lot of times when I see a press release, I mean, I work there, so it comes straight to my email. But a lot of them come straight to our assignment desk. So the fact that you said that, but it is nice to be able to have a producer or someone in-house, because then you can get it looked at a little quicker. Just a little side note for the guys listening, because I know a lot of times I hear brothers say, I send stuff in, no one's even replying back, but because they know
Yeah.
me, they'll send it to me, then I send it in. But I know, just like you said, I know who to send it to.
Of course.
So,
And then also too, Corie, if I may, I want to add this quick trick, this quick tidbit that may help. Follow reporters on Twitter. I tell all of my clients that. I tell anyone that has PR questions for me, that's like one of the first things I tell them. Follow the reporters and the producers on their social media outlets, because many reporters and producers, they will tweet about what it is that they're covering. Some of them may even tweet about what it is that they're looking for specifically. And then some of these reporters, like I indicated, there may be a business reporter or a reporter that specifically covers nonprofits. You can see what's trending and you can see what they've written about previously and what they are currently writing about. If you can find a way to have your story or your organization or your pitch or your press release tie in to what they're writing about or what they've recently tweeted about, you will increase your chances of also being covered. So just throwing that tidbit out there as well. Remember, when it comes to public relations, it is a mutually beneficial relationship. So the reporter is, yes, your goal is to, yes, have the reporter cover your story and your organization, but you're also helping the reporter out as well, because that is their job to bring those stories to life, to bring those stories to fruition. And even if you cannot get your story covered, let's say the reporter is working on something and you may know the person that they're looking for, or you may know the organization that you can put them in contact with. Like, prove yourself as a valuable source. You'll also increase your chances of being covered in the future. So it's all about building relationships when it comes to public relations.
how has your expertise in public relations helped when, we're living in an age of social media, when you have the TikTok, you have Facebook, you have Instagram? How has that, not just from a professional perspective, but from a personal level, how has that made you more of an influencer? Because as I see, you're an influencer and you're an inspirational speaker as well.
So that is a good question, Corie. So some people would argue that social media is a marketing tool, and that very well may be true. I'd like to counter argue and indicate that social media is a communications function. So, my background is in communications, as you indicated earlier. I've got the master's degree in communication from UCF, but I did not study communication when I was at FAMU. I actually studied journalism when I was at FAMU. But social media all works, it all goes together. It's all part of one big system as related to communications. So to answer your question, I think that a lot of Fortune 500 companies, anyone that owns a business needs to have a social media presence. So every single client that I have managed, if they're not on TikTok, they're on Instagram. If they're not on Instagram, they're on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook. And 9 times out of 10, when they come to me for public relations support, social media is usually a part of the package. Different individuals use their social media, in a vast multitude of ways, but most times it's communication, letting their followers know what's going on with the business, if they have any events coming up, if there's a special announcement. Usually, if people can't get the information from your website, the next place that they are going to go is to your social media page. So making sure that your social media is always up to date, and not always up to date, that's one, but two, making sure that the content that you're posting is appealing to your target audience. So when it comes to public relations, yes, that is a component that I manage as well. Also keeps me on my toes. It's a lot of fun. And then when it's come to building my own brand as an influencer, I think for me, being authentic has gone a long way for me. So I try to showcase, as much as I am, because I'm always out and about. Like, people know me as, a blurred. I'm a card-carrying blurred through and through. Still read comic books to this day. I just turned 36 years old last week. I still watch Power Rangers. So, and that's something that I showcase on, my Instagram page. And that's been good for me because I've been able to have a lot of my followers, message me back and say, oh, wow, like, I'm still in Power Rangers too, or I just saw the new Star Wars movie, or I'm a big James Bond fan. So that's created like a healthy dialogue for me on Instagram, while also being able to showcase, even though, I may be out here, having fun with my friends, and, I be in these streets, Corie, I be in these streets. But, the next post you may see, it may be of me giving, a speech at a university or me accepting an award or what have you. So I think it's finding that blend, that nice balance, which is, it's worked for me thus far. But I think what it all boils down to is being your authentic self, for sure.
Yeah, because I was gonna say when you said in those streets, and I was gonna say thanks for the transition because I was about to get into the comic book and that, but thanks for transitioning from you kind of made it nice and easy. But
Okay.
because I'll I'm not gonna lie, like maybe 3-4 times a week as I'm going through my Instagram, I might see a post from you. I've seen a couple during FAMU homecoming where you were a speaker there. I'm like, wow, that's kind of cool. I wish
Mhm.
FAMU would invite me. Invite me, FAMU. But I've also seen you in a library
Yeah.
doing readings.
Mhm.
And I'm like, hold on, is this brother in the library or is he in church? Because I mean, the picture I'm seeing look like they catching the Holy Ghost in there. So I'm like, listen, we had to get this brother on Black Men Sunday, baby.
You are funny. You are so funny. No, I think most of my friends, most of my close friends, they are privy to the fact that I bore very, very easily, Corie. So I am someone that I'm very extroverted. Very, all of my friends know I'm very extroverted. So I love staying busy. I'm not someone that can stay on the couch for too long. Not that there's anything wrong with staying on the couch. I'm an advocate for getting your rest. I'm an advocate for getting your rest, but yeah, I'm probably hyper involved. I might need to slow down, Corie, to be honest with you. But I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Now I was gonna say don't do that, man, because I was kind of enjoying chilling on the couch on my days off. Then I started mentoring at a community center. I pull up trying to play ball like it's '05 again. But I notice every time I go up and down my steps, my thighs are like, boy, you better sit your butt down. So yeah, man. So I feel you on that. So let's go on and get it going, man. You're a comic book creator,
Yeah,
Stink Bomb and the Brain Kids Volume 1.
that's right. Yeah, I'm
Where
excited.
did the inspiration for that come from?
Sure, sure, sure. Okay, so Stink Bomb Man and the Brain Kids Volume 1 has been it's been a dream of mine since I was a child. So as I indicated earlier, I am a blurred, proud blurred. And when I was a child, Corie, there weren't a lot of superheroes that looked
Actually,
like.
hold on one sec. Because remember at the beginning, I said we're gonna have to do some defining. Because
Yes.
so you gotta you gotta define blurred before you break that down. Because you're gonna lose some people. So let's go.
Listen, let's do it. Let's do it. Thank you for that. So blurred, it is a term, it's a hybrid word which stands for black nerd. All right. So it's something that's celebrated now by a lot of black people. It's cool now to be a blurred. When I was a kid, it wasn't so cool. But it's something that's heavily embraced now. So yes, I am a blurred, a black nerd. And when I was a child, there were not a lot of superheroes that looked like me, with the exception of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which is something that I always say. Zack, the Black Ranger, 1993, season 1 was my favorite Power Ranger. And then, LeVar Burton from Reading Rainbow and Star Trek, he was the voice of Kwame on Captain Planet, the Black Planeteer from Africa. And then aside from those two characters as a child, I really didn't have anyone else that I could identify with. I remember being a kid on the playground, Corie, when I was in elementary school. And I remember, a few of my friends and I were playing on the playground. We were the X-Men. And I wanted to be Cyclops. And I remember having a little white boy tell me that I could not be Cyclops because Cyclops is not black. Cyclops is white. And that might have been the moment where I was like, let me go ahead and, think of my own superheroes. So the superheroes that I created, Stink Bomb and the Brain Kids. The Brain Kids were created when I was in the first grade. Brittany and her brother Jesse, Brittany and Jesse McBrilliant, they have no superpowers, but they save the day using science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And then Stink Bomb Man is from the planet Stinkopolis. He is an intergalactic peacekeeper, and instead of using his fists to solve problems, he uses stink bombs because he's a peacekeeper. So he's not trying to inflict physical pain. But as a child, these characters, I created them, but they weren't played for seriousness. Like they were played for laughs. That ultimately it's supposed to be comedic. And I would draw and write homemade comic books and write short stories, and I would let my family members and my friends read them. And then as I got older, those same family members and friends would always ask for, more stories centered on those characters. And then I don't know, one of my fraternity brothers, I'm a proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And one of my fraternity brothers told me that now would be the right time to do something with those characters. So I decided to do it. And here we are today.
Okay. So at what point did you decide though that I can make money off of this? Like that's, because a lot of brothers have these phenomenal ideas,
Yeah.
but I think the issue that I keep seeing in our community is the ideas stay in your brain. They don't
Yeah.
execute. Like I was telling you in the message about a guy that had an idea that someone else took. So how were you able to make this idea, make this childhood goal come to fruition and then be able to sell it, like have the confidence to be able to sell it?
Okay, so I'm going to be 100% honest with you, all right? Because we talking, Corie, we having a conversation. We talking, all right?
It's Black Man Sunday, baby. Let's go.
That's right. Let's go. Let's go. So I think my aspiration was always to be a comic book writer and a comic book illustrator. And I did not initially pursue it because, when you're growing up, sometimes you're taught that, oh, that's not going to pay the bills. So you need to choose a real job. Hence the reason I studied journalism at Florida A&M University. First of all, I loved all of my journalism teachers. I still have great relationships with many of my professors from FAMU. I rep FAMU all day, every day. But that was the reason why I chose journalism, because even though, I was a good writer, I wanted to write for comic books, but I was still a good writer. So my parents encouraged me to pursue journalism, which I do not regret at all, because it certainly paid the bills. And then when I graduated, the economy wasn't doing well. So newspapers and magazines were going under. So I made the transition from journalism to public relations. And even though I've been very blessed in my public relations career, and I've been able to work with fantastic clients and forge different relationships with organizations and, win awards and accolades, all that stuff has been great. And I'm completely proud of myself. God is good. God works in mysterious ways. But I would be lying to you if I told you that I was not a little depressed, because at the end of the day, even though I'm doing these things, that's not where my passion is. That's not what I want to do at the end of the day. Like I really wanted to be into comic books. And I even had professors from FAMU that have watched my public relations career, and they've reached out to me during my career saying, Jaylen, don't forget your dreams of your comic book. Don't put those on hold. We see what you're doing from a PR standpoint, and yes, you're doing great. But remember, when you were here at FAM, you wanted to be a comic book writer. So don't put your dreams on hold for too long. All right. So what happened was, once the pandemic hit, and, things started slowing down a little bit, we received a little bit more free time, so to speak. I picked up, my pencil and paper and got back to it. And with this first volume, Stink Bomb Man, The Brain Kids Volume 1, it's 3 stories in one, but 2 of those stories were stories that I had written when I was younger. So one of the short stories that's included in this first volume is a story that I wrote when I was 13. The only thing I did was update it for a 2023 audience. And then one of the comic books, which is featured in volume 1, is from an idea that I had when I was a 10th grader. And it was drawn years ago. The only thing that I went back and drew while I was in my 30s was the first portion of volume 1, and that's it. So it's using, the vast majority of that comic book is using artwork that I illustrated years ago and a short story that I wrote years ago. So when it came to finding the confidence to publish it, I just kind of feel like, you look at all of these wonderfully talented Black people. Like you've got Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino. You've got Issa Rae. You've got Quinta Brunson, who is now killing the game. And Issa Rae, I read Issa Rae's book a few years ago, and she was very frank regarding her journey from how she got into show business. And you look at where Quinta Brunson started out and where she's at now. So it just all came down to taking a chance, praying about it, trusting God, and then stepping out to do it. So even though I grew frustrated and a little melancholy regarding, my lack of progress with my comic book during my public relations career, I was able to look back, Corie, and see that, God had been helping me the whole entire time, because when it came time for me to self-publish my comic book, I now had made connections with graphic designers, those that worked in printing, those that could help me with, paper quality, or I forged fantastic relationships with reporters and members of the media. That way, when it came time for me to promote the book, they were able to step in and say, hey, Jaylen, we've been waiting for this for years. So yes, whatever you need us to do to get the word out, we got you. So it all ended up working out to my advantage. But I think, just taking a chance, praying about it, putting your best foot forward, believing in yourself. I mean, I know all that sounds cliche, but at the end of the day, it really is the honest to God truth. So I released it February 28th of this year, Stink Bomb Man the Brink is Volume 1, and it's been doing well so far. I have no complaints. I have no complaints.
Okay, and where can I purchase it and how much?
Yeah, so it is available on JaylenChristie.com. That is JaylenChristie.com. So it's available on my website for purchase. $25, but about $5 for shipping and handling. And then soon it will be available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com as well. But I would prefer, you purchase from the website so your boy can get 100% of the proceeds, So, yeah, but that's where it's currently available, on my website, for sure.
Is it a good idea to put it on Amazon, to put it on other platforms that are already established, or is it better to go through yourself?
Sure. Well, I think that it depends on the person. There are some self-published authors that would prefer to be on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or Books A Million, and then there are some that make it exclusively on their website. I think that when it comes to working with someone like Amazon, Amazon has reach. They're global. So if you publish through Amazon, they can get you places that you may not necessarily be able to get yourself initially. All right. Just keep in mind that Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, they will take a percentage of sales, which rightfully so. That makes total sense. Whereas if you put it on your website, you're going to garner 100% of the proceeds. So my strategy was to launch it on my website first before moving it to Barnes and Noble and Amazon. So there's value in both. So, and I've seen the value in both. So I think that I think it all depends on the author. All depends on the person that wants to do it.
I want to talk about the comic book for one last second.
Sure, sure.
Now, you're probably going to tell me I'm going to have to read the comic book to get it, because I get it when I've had plenty of authors on here that says you're going to have to read the book. But the question for you is, because it is, Stink Bomb and the Brain Kids, it's Black. Are we touching on any subjects that are, because you said you updated it for 2023. So, there's been a lot of issues in our community. So do we touch on that in the comic book?
We do a little bit. So here, and I can talk about a little bit of it without, revealing the plot. But yes, so Stink Bomb Man is Black. Jesse McBrilliant and Brittany McBrilliant, they are also Black as well. And they've always been Black. When I was a kid, they were Black. So they're still Black now. All right. What I did in updating it for 2023 was I diversified their characters. So Brittany McBrilliant and Jesse McBrilliant, they attend James Baldwin High School. James Baldwin was also a prolific Black writer, one of my favorite writers. But I diversified the students that are in attendance at James Baldwin High School. So, for example, Jesse's best friend, Riley, is white. Riley also happens to have two fathers, all right? Brittany's best friend, Fatima, is Muslim, all right? Jesse has a crush on Elle Yamamoto, a Japanese American girl, and her best friend, Trish, is of the disabled community. Also, Jesse and Brittany's grandfather, Dr. Beaumont McBrilliant, is a proud and open gay man who is helping his grandchildren save the day in the city of Princeton Bay. So I added that diversity component. And then in embracing diversity, I was also sure to display that there are also characters of different body types as well. So I was trying to make sure that everyone felt seen when they're reading the book. So that was something that was different from when I was a kid, because when I was a kid, everyone was Black. Everybody's Black. I was pro-Black everything when I was a child. But, when I got older, I was like, I want to make sure that, different people of different races, that they see themselves on the pages as well. Conversely, each of the antagonists, they don't really see themselves as supervillains. So each of the antagonists in each volume, they have something that they're trying to pursue, something that they're trying to accomplish that is related to something that is going on in the real world. So, for example, Stink Bomb and the Brain Kids, they are fighting Face Shifter in the first volume. All right, and Face Shifter is after this device, which gives everyone the ability to look the same, speak the same, no differences whatsoever. I'm not going to reveal the reason why he's after the device, but that is something that currently ties in, to diversity, equity, inclusion. And then in the next issue, which I'm pinning now, the superheroes are working together to stop this villain named Quatamaka, who has the ability to go back in time. And the reason why Quatamaka wants to go back in time is because her son, a young Black man, was killed by a police officer. So she's trying to go back in time to prevent that from happening. But in her going back in time, she's stealing the life forces of the life energy, rather, of all the individuals that live in Princeton Bay to power her time machine. So there's always a reason why the superheroes have to get involved to stop the antagonist. But to the antagonist way of thinking, they're like, no, what I'm doing makes perfect sense. And I try to tie that into, what's going on in the world today without beating the reader over the head with it. All right. That's what, so, keep it light. I try to keep it a little light, but I do want it to be like, I want my readers to check it out when they're like, oh, I see what Jaylen is doing. Oh, yep, this did happen. Yep, that's going on in the world right now. So that's what I'm trying to do, Corie, if that makes sense.
Wow, no, I'm impressed. Whoa, I wasn't ready for that, but hey, I knew we were gonna touch on something because I'm like, okay, comic book 2023. It's hard to just say he jumped over the hill and
Right.
drink some high C orange juice. Like it's more than that. But before I let you go, man, because like I said, I've been hogging the mic. Kay, Eric, y'all have any questions for this talented brother right here?
Like I said, I'm on the road, so excuse any sound issues if there are any. I do have a question, so I'm gonna take it back. You were talking about some of the public relations stuff you were doing, and I kind of wanted to kind of tie that into just the message of generational wealth. We made this show just to kind of send the message of generational wealth to make that message a little bit more widespread as we go along. And so I'm wondering, what do you see as we look into society and we see, as you observe that, people's attention spans are getting shorter, and so your messaging has to be more concise. Do you see the message of the importance of generational wealth building penetrating? Do you see that being a message that's penetrating? And how could it be improved? Like, how can we do a better job of maybe creating a more succinct, more powerful message about generational wealth?
Sure. Okay, that's a good question. So I actually think that the message regarding generational wealth is something that's not going to go away anytime soon. I think it's going to be something that continues to be important and something that continues to resonate with people, especially the Black community. I think that will forever be a topic of interest. It will always continue to be trending. So when it comes to getting the word out about that, I don't think that you have to worry about there being any interest. Now, when it comes to the ways in which people will digest that, I don't know if you'll be able to do, like a full-fledged think piece on it. Some may find that interesting for sure. But when you look at different demographics, what statistics are now showing us is that older individuals still prefer to get that newspaper and sit down on a Sunday morning and read it from start to finish. Whereas younger individuals prefer getting their news from podcasts, or their news from blogs or micro blogs, for example, vlog meaning video blog. All right. And then there are some individuals so I'm a millennial. So what's the one that comes after me? Gen X? Is it Gen X that comes after Gen Z? Comes after millennials, I believe. After millennials, Gen Z. All right. That generation, they prefer, micro snippets on, TikTok and things of that nature. So you got to give it to them fast. But I don't think that generational wealth will ever be a topic that, goes away completely. You just have to adapt pertaining to the generation. So I know that when I'm handling public relations for my clients, once I learn who their target audience is, I tailor the message to that audience. So for example, if one of my clients, let's say I have a nonprofit. Back in the day, I used to work for the Salvation Army of Orlando. That was the very first public relations job that I ever had in my career. All right. The Salvation Army got the vast majority of its funding from older individuals. So if that's the case, if I'm utilizing that knowledge, then I'm not using social media to get the word out about what the Salvation Army is in need of. I'm going to newspapers, because I know that statistics have shown me that older individuals still read the newspaper, or that older individuals prefer to sit down in the morning and watch the local news or watch the national news before they start their day. So I'm going after, television stations and newspapers, all right? Conversely, I had another client, which was an amusement park, very small amusement park. They were trying to appeal to a younger demographic because they saw that their attendance was starting to die down. So I wasn't going after newspapers. The game changed, my strategy changed, all right? So now I'm going after radio stations. I'm going after bloggers. I'm going after podcasters. There was even an event that I held at this small theme park where we invited bloggers there for a day to just blog about it, because those bloggers happen to be influencers and they had significant social media followings. All right. But all of that stuff boils down to knowing who your target audience is. And once you know who your target audience is, that's when you're able to tailor the message. There are some topics that in a few years, they will not be, some people won't find them interesting anymore. I'm gonna go on record to say this: after the events of 2020, diversity, equity, and inclusion became all the rage. Everybody and their mom was talking about DE&I, all right? All the corporations, all the organizations needed a DE&I person, a DE&I component, a DE&I department. You fast forward to 2023, those same corporations that have made these promises concerning diversity, equity, and inclusion, they are now getting rid of their DE&I departments. They're laying off their DE&I teams and their DE&I executives and specialists, all right? Because that's no longer trending anymore. That doesn't change the fact that diversity, equity, and inclusion should not be important. DE&I should continue to be important. It's just no longer a hot topic. And this is something that always happens when topics start to fade away. They start to move on to the next topic, all right? But when it comes to generational wealth, I don't think that will ever be a topic that goes away, because it's something that continues to matter. People are always going to need financial advice, especially in the Black community. So I'm an advocate for it. I myself, quite frankly, I'm a public relations person. I'm a creative person, so I'm not really good with finances. But I know my line brother, my fraternity brother, Carlin Johnson, was on here a few weeks ago. He is the finance expert. So whenever I have a finance question, I usually go to Carlin to help me out with that.
No, it does, man. Obviously that was a really comprehensive answer, but definitely answers the question. Yeah, definitely, something that we endeavor to do as we work on this is try to make sure that we have a target audience that we want to get our message out to, and make sure that we're in the proper channels to get that message to them in the right way.
Sure.
Flipping modes for a minute over to the comic book industry. So again, like looking at the comic book industry, what are you seeing in the comics? For those of us familiar with it, we know that the comic book industry has long been dominated by Marvel and DC.
Yep.
What are you looking at as I guess like a indie artist? As what is the indie market looking at, and is there what are the lanes for like opportunities into breaking into that market, especially as a minority?
Sure.
What's the demand for minority and diverse stories?
Yeah, so what I will say is that the indie market as pertaining to comic books have come leaps and bounds since I was a child. So I know that I referenced Childish Gambino, Donald Glover earlier. He was asked recently, someone asked him, how do I break into like the movie world? I want to make movies. I want to create my own television show. Like how do I do it? And Donald Glover responded and said, it's easy. The game has changed. You have an iPhone now. You can make movies on your phone. So it's not as hard as it used to be, 20, 30 years ago. The same applies to the comic book industry. So yes, comic book industry continues to be dominated by DC and Marvel, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But there are other publishers such as Boom Studios, for example, or TKO, for example. Those are two publications that specialize in independent artists, independent comic books. And then there are some people that are, doing it themselves and are publishing it on their website. Even though, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a topic that, may not necessarily be embraced by corporations anymore. We're starting to see that go down. But in the creative world, there is still a demand for diverse characters. And you've even seen that with DC and Marvel introducing more and more Black and brown characters. And we've had the success of Black Panther recently, and then Marvel just launched the Miss Marvel TV series on Disney Plus, which is a superhero of color. So that demand is still there. And I think that, if I ever had doubts about it, I can tell you this: when I released my comic book in Black History Month of this year, I think I had modest expectations. I knew I was hopeful that it would do well, keeping my fingers crossed. But I gotta tell you, like, once I released it, there were people that I didn't even know, that I'd never even met, that was reaching out to me saying, Jaylen, how can I buy your comic book? I want to share this with my kid, I want to share this with my child, and that proved to me that that the demand was there. I spoke at a school back in February. I spoke at Audubon Park K through 8 back in February. And I showed them a presentation pertaining to my comic book, which features, those 3 Black characters. And there was a little Black girl in the front row, made me tear up. She said, if Nickelodeon was to acquire my comic book series and turn it into a cartoon, she would watch it. And that just goes to prove that representation really, really matters, right? So it's still in demand in the comic book space. I think that if there are independent artists that want to move forward and getting their comic books done, especially if they feature diverse characters, by all means, yes, please push. Because even though we're seeing an increase in diverse characters in this space, it's still not where it needs to be. Because even when you look at Marvel, the Marvel Cinematic Universe was established in 2008, I believe. Didn't Iron Man and Incredible Hulk come out in 2008, I think. It's now 2023. And we're just now starting to see Black and brown characters take a prominent role. What people tend to forget is, yes, Anthony Mackie is the new Captain America now. So Captain America now is a Black man. New Captain America movie comes out, I think, next year, I believe. So that's great. I'm happy about that. But at the end of the day, Anthony Mackie was Falcon, and he was a Black superhero that served as a sidekick, ultimately, to Chris Evans' version of Captain America. All right. Monica Rambeau, whom I love, played by Tiana Paris, who's going to get an expanded role in the second Captain Marvel movie. Ultimately, she was a supporting character in WandaVision. Don Cheadle, who plays War Machine, Black character who I think is awesome. At the end of the day, he was a sidekick to Iron Man. So when Marvel first started their cinematic universe, it was great to see that representation, but at the end of the day, the Black characters were supporting characters at the end of the day, So, and that's like, is that how you see us? So we're just now starting to get to a point where more and more Black and brown characters are starting to take those leading roles, and they're commanding their own movies and they're commanding their own series, and more Black and brown audiences are pushing for that. And so I remember when Black Panther came out, and stop me if I'm going on a tangent, because like I said, I'm a blurred, I can talk about this all day, but when Black Panther came out in 2018, there were a lot of think pieces that were written on it saying, oh my gosh, how did this movie cross $1 billion so fast? And I'm just like, guys, it is not that hard. Like, you have a demographic that has been starved of content in this medium for so long. It should not be rocket science to know why Black people showed up in droves to support Black Panther. All right. It should not be rocket science. It's rocket science to know that Angela Bassett is the first actress, the first person in a Marvel property, period, to be nominated for an Academy Award for acting. She should have won. So don't get me started on that. All right. But none of this stuff is, it's not overly complicated. Like we're as Black people, as Black and brown people, we're underfed, so we're hungry for more content. So I think that there is definitely an opportunity for independent comic book writers, independent illustrators, if you have an idea, I think now is still the time to do it. Like push, make it happen, get it in front of the right people, and I think you'd be surprised by your results.
That's what's up, man. Definitely appreciate that. I got to ask you one final quick question.
Please.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
before I get
Kayla, I was
off.
gonna say, I know you got one more. And just FYI, Jalen, he ain't introduced himself. He went to A&T and Norfolk State, but he got a master's in public policy, but he ain't say that. Go ahead, man.
Nice.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask you real quick before I get off of the joint. So, we know there's been a movement there's been a movement towards AI art. Have you dabbled in any of the AI art? And what are you thinking about how technology is advancing in the art area and allowing people to use art that way?
So I'm all
what I'm talking about with Chat GPT and all that.
Yeah. So I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Now my skill sets are limited. Just to be honest with you. But I have very good friends of mine that are artists, and they are good when it comes to AI art, and they are knocking it out of the park. All right. But for me, it would take me some time to even adapt and wrap my head around trying that myself. I tried one of my good friends, Kyle Reese. All right. Kyle tried to get me to draw my comic book using an iPad, because most illustrators now for Marvel, DC, or what have you, when they illustrate these comic books, they're doing it digitally now. I tried for a day. I got like the fattest headache and was just like, yo, I got to go back to paper and pencil because I can't, like, I'm not good at this. But yes, as it pertains to AI, but yeah, I think there's definitely going to continue to be interest in it. I think that you're seeing it now. I mean, art can be consumed in many different ways. So I think it's something that some people are starting to identify with, and I think that's going to continue to resonate with people for sure.
Awesome, man. Definitely appreciate that. Appreciate your contribution, man. And definitely keep pushing, man. I'm gonna be looking for your comic book, man. So I can't wait to get my hands on that and read that. And thanks for spending some time with us this Sunday.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and again, before I let you go, man, how can we get that comic book?
So you can get the comic book by going to jaylenchrustie.com, JaylenChristie.com. And then I've also been encouraging people to follow me on Instagram at the Superfly Nerd. I am constantly updating my page regarding news pertaining to the comic book. So follow me on Instagram, stay tuned to my website. Everything pertaining to Stink Bomb and the Brain Kids are found on both of those platforms.
I'm saying it says volume 1.
Yeah.
Well, that means we're going to get some volume 2, 3, 4, like.
Right. Absolutely. Volume 1 is the first chapter of a 6-part miniseries. So yes, there are 5 additional volumes that I am currently working on. I'm currently working on volume 2 right now. But yes, there will be 5 additional volumes. And then at the end of volume 6, I plan to wrap it on up. And then depending on how I feel, maybe there'll be a 7 and an 8 or a 9. But right now it's volume 1 of 6. Yes.
Wow, man, great information. And for the brothers out here that keep their dreams in their head, they have confidence, but they may feel others may not have confidence in what their vision is.
Mm-hmm.
Being an inspirational speaker, being Carlin Johnson said you basically inspired him to be a writer. So using your inspirational perspective, what can we do to propel our brothers and sisters to get out of our mental mindset and to actually do it? Because I mean, you could have kept Stink Bomb and the Brain Kids on your brain.
Yeah.
Now we wouldn't be talking about it right now. So what can we do as a Black community to believe in ourselves and realize our dreams and goals?
I think it comes down to what's iron sharpening iron, like keeping each other encouraged, pushing each other and motivating each other. You indicated my lion brother Carlin earlier. That's my boy. So Carlin and I, we actually push each other. We actually keep each other going. And the same can be said about my mother and my father and my sister and my close friends. All of us are each other's accountability partner, and we all encourage each other to keep moving forward. And I do want to, like I said, I'm an honest person. I'm very transparent. So I don't never want to portray myself as being the most confident person in the world, because Lord knows I have my days where I'm just like, this is not going to resonate, or I don't think anyone's going to really care about, my comic book or my short stories, or like, why does this matter? I have a therapist. I'd be the first person to go on record and say I have a therapist. All right. I meet my therapist once a month and he keeps me focused. All right. But I think it's all about, getting rid of the negative talk, getting rid of, your haters, getting rid of self-doubt, getting rid of the pity parties, and staying focused. If you have a dream, if it's something that you continue to think about every single day, then by all means, push to make your dream happen. Like, do not take no for an answer. All right. There is a quote, I believe, that says, a dream deferred is not a dream denied. All right. So if you had that dream when you were a child, and let's say you're now 45, 55, 65, and that dream is still on your heart, like, still push to make it happen. Like, the game has changed. Like, I tell people that all the time, the game has changed. Like, there are so many resources available nowadays, resources that were not available, a decade ago. So you'd be surprised at the things that you can accomplish when you really put your mind to it. I have friends of mine that have opened, like, I have a friend that opened her own catering business. I have another friend of mine that opened his own gymnasium. My sister has her own nonprofit. I have a friend of mine that she is a model. She went to a modeling audition 10 years ago. She was told no. She let that deter her. She has a model. She stopped modeling. And then this year she decided to get back into it. First audition she went to, she was told yes, so it's like all about overcoming those obstacles and not getting in your own way. Because I feel like as Black people, we have enough obstacles staged against us already. All right. There are already odds against us. There are already people, trying to say no to us, so it's like, don't say no to yourself. Like, at the end of the day, continue to push yourself. All right. And I think there's power in that. I think there's power in, in your mentality. All right. If you tell yourself yes every single day, if you can advocate for yourself, oh God, you've already won half the battle as far as I'm concerned. So I think it's all about having that positive mindset and keeping each other encouraged. I think that's the secret.
Oh man, I got like really got two more. I told you the Allen Iverson's out, the Bethel
Yeah.
version. All right,
Please,
so
fast.
for the parents now,
Mhm.
because we talked about the brothers and sisters believing in themselves, but for the parents that say, listen, you're gonna write a comic book. No, I'm not paying for you to go to a school to do that. I'm not paying for that. I'm paying for you to be a doctor, to be a lawyer. I'm paying for this. But I feel like, a lot of parents don't realize these children's hobbies can be
Mhm.
careers as well.
Mhm.
So, the fact that, you're making money off your comic book. Like, what do you want to say to the parents that say, listen, kid, you need to do something that I know makes money, not what you think,
Yeah.
or as a
So
hobby?
what I will say to that is, sometimes you have to remind yourself that your parents aren't perfect. We all make mistakes. And sometimes when it comes to parents, they're just doing what their parents taught them or what they may perceive to be right. But yes, I do believe that you have to invest in your child. So I was very, very blessed. I was very blessed in that, my parents, they invested in me, so when I was a kid, my parents were always bringing home paper and crayons and coloring pencils, to invest in me, to keep me encouraged regarding illustrating and doing things of that nature. And even though they pushed me, into, they encouraged me rather to pursue journalism, at the end of the day, they still knew Jaylen wants to be a comic book artist. Jaylen wants to go into illustration. All right. They may not have seen how it was going to happen, but what they recognized was, okay, Jaylen's writing comic books. He's writing short stories about superheroes. So we'll harness that writing ability and we'll just utilize that for journalism at first before he moves on to, the comic book. So that was their strategy. All right. But to the parents that are outright saying no to their children, well, that's not right. Because to your point, Corie, yes. Like, I posted my comic book last month. And yeah, I'm making money off of it. Like, I've been really, really blessed, man. So if you have a child that has a dream, whatever that vision may be, like, invest in it, encourage them to pursue it, because there could be a profit in that. Yeah, I think as a parent, you want to keep your child encouraged. You don't want to squash their dreams. You don't want to tell them no. When I was a kid, my parents used to tell my sister and I, you can be anything that you want to be. And they still say that to me today. My mom and dad were the first individuals to buy my comic book when it came out. My mom is currently reading it now. I'm not really sure she's really into comic books and superheroes, but she's trying her hardest to comprehend what I wrote and illustrated. She's calling me every other day and she's like, okay, this Jaylen's doing what now? What's his motivation again? So yeah, I think that I think investing in your children, A, helps them to realize their full potential, but B, they'll value you more as they get older. You don't want your child to become an adult and then the storyline is now my mom and dad didn't believe in me and then they end up getting rich and then you don't get a percentage of any of their revenue. Like you don't want that story, do you? So yeah, always invest in your kids. Always invest in your kids for sure.
Oh man, I'm not gonna lie, man. I've had a good time with you today, man. Did you enjoy yourself on Black Men Sundays, brother?
Listen, I enjoyed myself tremendously. All right. And don't let this be the last time that I meet with all of you. So if you want me to come back, I will come back. It's not a problem. This is great.
Oh, really? Because it's not like you ducked me for like the last year, though.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Since you want to talk about, let's talk about it. All right. So I was under the impression. Hi, listeners. This is Jaylen talking. All right. So I was under the impression, and for good reason, might I add, that this podcast dealt specifically with wealth and finance. So when I was initially invited to be on the podcast, I was like, I'm not really a money person. Like, I'm not good with wealth. I can name someone else that would be a good guest, such as my line brother Carlin, for example, who is a finance expert. All right. But when it came to me, I was like, I don't know if I'm a finance person. Now, if you have a public relations or communications question, I'm your boy. But a finance person, I don't know if I can give advice on finance. So that's what it was, guys. That's what it was.
Yeah, I had to mess with you on that because what I like to do with Black Men Sundays, we talk about generational wealth, finance, and business. But what I like to do is each show is catered, just like how that sweater is catered to you right now.
Yes.
I made sure the show was catered to you. So even though in your mind you weren't really talking about generational wealth, you were, because I get a lot of brothers, like I said, in the business arena that listen, I'm trying to get the media, I'm trying to get outlets to follow, to come cover what I'm doing, that are influencers like yourself as well. Because see, old school, you think media, okay, you get CBS, ABC, Fox coming out, but now you have them plus the influencers. So if there's someone in your city and this guy's has a verified on his Instagram and he's doing numbers, you invite him as well, because that's an influencer. So that's why I was able to see the value in you today. Plus, you're a speaker as well. So I knew you were going to bring your humor. You were going to bring that personality. You were going to bring the personality out of me. Plus, I went to FAMU too. So, and my man on here, Kalal, he went to A&T. So I had to show him how these FAMU boys get down,
Right. Absolutely. All day.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So man, I had a great time in interviewing you today. Last question, man. Did you enjoy yourself on Black Men Sundays?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was great. Bring me back.
Oh yeah, we definitely gonna do that. So hey man, Jalen Christie, thanks for coming on Black Men Sundays, brother. I appreciate you. You came highly recommended. Enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your week, brother. Peace.
It's a Black Man Sunday.